inject emotion into everything. Today on Mi Rollo, I'm joined by Gordi, a voice that blends vulnerability and resilience, a doctor, an artist who turns life's deepest transformations into powerful emotional pop. Hi, Sophie. How are you? Nice to having you here.
Hello. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. It's really nice to chat today.
So I first saw you opening for Foster the People at Razzmatazz in Barcelona in July 2025. How did the experience of touring with your favorite band in Europe last June, July impact you, both as an artist and as a person?
Yeah, it was amazing. Foster the People are a brilliant band, and it was, really cool to see them play all over Europe to all sorts of people, such a wide demographic in their audience, and their shows are so kind of filled with joy, and people are there to have a good time. And so, it makes playing the opening set an easy job. The band were all so lovely, and, pretty much every show, eh, playing the opening act can be a bit hit or miss. Sometimes you get up there and people haven't arrived yet for the main act, and you can play to a half empty room. But all the shows I played with Foster the People, the crowds were really enthusiastic there
Mm.
from the very beginning, and yeah, some of my favorite shows of all time. There was lots of running around Europe and lots of flight cancellations that we had to navigate, which was very hectic. But no, it was really fun.
So, Like Plasticine, your third album, was released last August. It's after a 5 year journey. During the COVID-19 pandemic, you were working in several hospitals, and that time forced you to confront things you'd been avoiding. What was the hardest truth you had to face through that process?
Yeah, so I did. I kind of spent the biggest part of the pandemic working in hospitals because I'd finished my junior training as a doctor, and even though I had thought I would be going overseas, to tour, that didn't happen. So I was back in hospitals, and yeah, I guess that's an interesting question. The hardest truth I had to face. I mean, on a personal level, it was kind of relinquishing any sense I had of control over my surroundings and my life because, I was devastated that I was putting out an album and I was touring and all of it just kind of went up, in flames, and I was working in the emergency department instead. So I had to really, still working on on letting that go. But I think like, on a bigger level, the hardest truth was, I was really confronted with a lot of death and a lot of grief. And I think like, the probably the hardest truth that I had to to sort of wrap my head around was that
Mm,
uh nothing really matters other than the things that really do. So it's like all the
mm.
things that we worry about day to day, um, that global pandemic, it just made all of it seem completely insignificant, and we were suddenly dealing with such epic life and death issues. So it really put everything into a rather harsh perspective, but in a sense, a pretty beautiful perspective too.
Talking about death, no, you've said that being surrounded by death made you realize how beautiful life is. How do you carry that awareness into your everyday life, not just your music?
Yeah, I think like, I had this experience when I was training as a junior doctor of learning how to certify death. So I would be, with someone who just passed away, and I had to complete an examination where I would listen for the absence of a heartbeat and breath sounds, and declare that the person had in fact passed away. And yeah, as I was kind of like standing there looking at this person who had just lived a whole life, I was thinking about how, unbreakable we are as people and how malleable we are. And when there are all these kind of forces thrust upon us, whether it's a global pandemic or whether it's, it's experiencing grief or love or loss in your everyday life, we have a lot to kind of navigate as people. And I think, how I carry that into my everyday, I don't always do it very successfully, but I think that, it's this idea of go
Mm,
easy on yourself because life can be really hard, and it can really kind of wear you down
mm.
and shape you and change you in ways that sometimes you don't want it to, but that's kind of what living means.
And the metaphor of plasticine, no, being reshaped by forces we can control, is powerful, no? Which moment in your life do you think that really reshaped you in a way you didn't expect, but that you now see as meaningful?
Yeah, I think probably one of the main like the main moment in my life was when I realized I was a queer person. That only happened for me at the age of 24. And it really kind of broke me down back down to my basic pieces, I think, because I sort of had uh this reckoning with my own identity of thinking, who am I? Who have I been my whole life? Who am I going to be for the rest of my life? People talk a lot about pride when it comes to the LGBTQIA plus
Mhm.
community.
Mm,
And I think like pride is a really complex topic. It's
yeah.
in a sense it can be easy to describe in that, yeah, I feel proud of who I am, but in the sense of the queer community, the sort of opposite of pride is shame. And I
Mm,
think like wrestling with those two things as I was coming to terms with my identity, um, I don't think anything in my life has sort of shaped me more. And, having to kind of overcome the sort of inbuilt shame of having grown up, in a tiny small town, going to Catholic church, in communities where queer people were not visible. I had
mm.
to really just claim my life as my own, whether or not I had kind of role models or people to look up to. And I think there was a lot of kind of power in just accepting myself just based on who I am, not based on kind of some example I have in front of me.
And Goddamn is such a powerful opener, especially with a video full of personal moments of your life. I think it offers a unique way to connect with your music. If you could add one new memory to that archive of old footage, something from your life today, what would it be?
But you know what? It might be walking out on stage in Barcelona before most of the
Oh.
people to a room full of people. In a city that I've rarely played in, and watching them, engage with music that I've written over the past 5 years, like, about my own life. I think that the energy that is transferred in those moments is would be worth capturing on tape.
What it's like to play, no, for such a big audience, no?
I mean, it's incredible. I think I like playing the opening set because, often at least a big portion of the crowd are unfamiliar with, who you are. And sometimes when I walk out on stage, there's people are talking or people are at the bar or whatever, and there's like few things more thrilling in life than walking into a room that's kind of noisy and then, over the course of the first song, kind of getting everybody's attention, and then, by the end of the song, you feel like you have them in the palm of your hand, and it's yeah, there are a few things more thrilling in life than that.
Okay, so now in your last record, your consolation prize, the phrase consolation prize usually carries a bittersweet tone, something you get when you didn't quite win. You talk about coming out as a young queer person and still feeling certain constraints while writing this song. Was there a part of yourself you came to understand more deeply, something you hadn't fully put into words before?
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful question. I think that there was, and it's in a way it's something I've realized as people have asked me about that song. I think often, songs are things that I can't express in words a lot of the time. And then you kind of come full circle because people are sort of like, what's this song about? And you're like, okay, now I
Yeah.
have to figure out how to express it in
Yeah.
words. Um, I think like what I realized with your consolation prize was that I had grown up a lot, and that I had matured a lot, because I think like when I first was dealing with coming out, I was really bitter and angry that, there were people in my life who didn't understand or who would never get it. And I thought, like, shame on you that that's something that you don't understand, or that you're going to make me feel, uncomfortable about. And I think your consolation prize is about redefining my perspective on that and thinking, look, like if there are people in my life who don't get it, who don't get queerness,
Mm.
maybe because of where they come from or where they were brought up, as long as they're treating me with
Mm.
as much love and respect as they can, like I will accept that there's a part of our relationship now that feels imperfect, and it's like even though they can't fully understand who I am, I'm gonna choose to love them and show them sort of respect and gratitude anyway.
And Peripheral Lover was recorded in Dallas with 45 degrees. You think about not wanting to be someone's peripheral. Do you think it helped you claim visibility not only in love but also in your personal life and in identity?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that song's a lot about sort of self-love, I guess, essentially, and being like, I'm not here to be on the sidelines of your life. Like you can either have me at the front and center or I'm gonna be on my way. And yeah, we filmed the video clip for it in Dallas on a 45-degree day, and it was insanely hot. And we had all these like queer people show up and they were all like kissing on screen, and they all like became friends at the end of the day. It was like all very sweet. But yeah, I think that song, there's a real breadth of styles on the record, and I wanted more than sort of adhering to a specific genre. I wanted the record to feel like life does, like from the sort of point of ecstasy and jubilation to all the way to, feeling devastated and sad. So Peripheral Lover is on one end of the spectrum.
The lyric says you need to keep something visceral. A baby, what does visceral connection mean to you in a world where relationships can often feel fleeting or superficial?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. Visceral is like, to me, like visceral is something that you see as much as you feel, like it's kind of it's all the love languages. It's like that, a visceral feeling I think of when like when I'm making music or when I'm listening to music and I get that feeling kind of like at the top of my diaphragm, at the bottom of my sternum, and it feels like this tension there. It's like an excitement and it's like it's full and empty at the same time. And it's this kind of spark of connection. And I think, I don't know, that's the feeling I'm always searching for in music, and I guess that's the feeling I'm searching for in relationships and in life as well.
And in Lancha Dune, you and So created a protective sonic world together. With that song, you moved Chris Martin to tears during a session with 6 or 7 other artists in a room in Melbourne. He told you he loved your music and he even let you play the song on the piano. What did that recognition mean to you in such an intimate setting? Did it change anything about the way you see your music?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously like crazy, it felt like such a gift of a moment that just was like, flung out of space. And he is a really lovely man, it's the only time I've ever met him in my life. And he's clearly someone who he loves searching for the feeling, he loves searching for music that inspires him. And yeah, it felt, like an enormous, privilege and an enormous like life win to provide him with that kind of moment. Um, and yeah, I think, when I'm feeling sort of a little like existential about, the state of the world and the state of music and the way music gets consumed and heard and like, and what's the point of it all? I think of moments like that and I'm like, well, you know, it's that kind of connection, that kind of reaction, to sort of a display of your own internal feelings that I think, is motivation enough to keep going.
In Aromatic, the closing track, you think about switching off, almost like running on autopilot when things are overwhelming. You've talked about how, as a doctor, you often had to squash emotions just to keep going. Do you think Automatic became a space where you could finally let those emotions breathe?
Yeah, I'm currently learning to play this song, which I know sounds weird because I wrote it, but because I'm the tour I'm about to go on, we're going to play it for the first time. So I've been sort of just practicing singing it, and I was going through it with my vocal coach the other day, and she was like, "Is this song like emotion, like sort of hard for you to sing emotionally?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think it is." And she was like, you gotta figure out how to kind of let that go. So yeah, I think I'm still figuring out when I am in that song how to get off autopilot because it brings up a lot of like pretty grim memories of the pandemic, like sitting in my car after a long day at work, having told a patient, that they are nearing the end of their life and they can't sort of have family or friends around them because of COVID
Mm,
and feeling like being in the hospital, I had to really
mm,
switch off my emotions so that patients could have the whole space to feel theirs. And so then I basically had the 40-minute journey home from hospital to home in my car to feel all the emotions that I could. And yeah, I sort of like I think the chorus in automatic, it's you can kind of get the sense that I'm in a car in the chorus. And that's yeah, that song sort of I have a tricky relationship with it. I think I'm still figuring out how to how to let it all out.
mm. Okay, so now let's talk again about queer. Queer lives often carry invisible asterisks. The moment when you start asking yourself the big questions, do you think this song became a space where you could honor that process of rebuilding or letting those questions breathe rather than rushing to answer them?
Yeah, I mean that's the idea, is to kind of like is to try to create space for myself to just figure out what I want in life. But life is fast paced and the years go on and there's the expectations of society and community and there's biological clocks and there's all sorts of things. So I think like anyone, I'm just sort of yeah, trying to like piece my way through that and figure it all out. And once again on this record, I've been immensely grateful for the presence of songwriting in my life because it does help me, just sift through a lot of that information that would otherwise just be buzzing around in my head constantly. But yeah, that's all very much a journey that I'm on and trying to figure out.
What are the values that guide you the most?
The values that guide me the most are authenticity and vulnerability and honesty. I think and acting with love. Like I think that, coming from an authentic, honest place, that's the way you get anywhere with anyone in life. And I think that, allowing yourself to be vulnerable with yourself, with other people, um, yeah, that's kind of critically important to my sort of everyday. So those are sort of probably the things, the values that I live by the most.
And what was it like performing Peripheral Lover on the Kelly Clarkson show? Did you get a chance to talk with Kelly Clarkson backstage?
So devastatingly, we did it as a pre-record in another country because basically we got the call being like, you're going to be on the Kelly Clarkson show, but we need the video within the next 24 hours of the live performance. And I was in Brighton in the UK. And so yeah, we like had a camera crew there and we filmed the video and sent it over. So I never bloody got to meet Kelly, which is like so tragic. But
Oh,
maybe next time.
maybe next time, no? Let's see. So you've got an incredible run of shows coming up, from intimate in stores in Berlin to iconic venues like the Sydney Opera House, and even sharing the stage with artists like Soak, Lapsley, and David
Mhm.
Gray. With such a wide range of settings and collaborators, do you see this tour as a kind of emotional map, each stop offering a different way to connect with the songs and the people they've reached?
Yes, definitely. I think, in one sense, I'm really excited to play, the Sydney Opera House, like we'll be in a sort of proper full band configuration. So I've just been kind of designing the show for that, Australian run of, and it's been really nice to kind of go through all the parts and divvy them up, and I know when we come together to play those, that's going to be really special. But I always love playing in kind of a solo format as well. I think you can kind of connect with people in a different way. So like, doing the in-store at Berlin. And then the Lapsley tour I'll be doing as a duo, like with me and a friend on the drums. So yeah, there's going to be, and I think David Gray I'm doing sort of solo, but with a more elaborate kind of setup. So yeah, before the year's out, there'll be like five different versions of this show that I've got to play. So it's going to be a hectic time.
Wow, yes. Well, and now I want to read this. Like Plasticine is a journey through vulnerability, the intensity of human connections, and the complexity of emotions, from celebrating uniqueness and authenticity to the pain of loss and self destruction. The album shows us how loving, suffering, fleeing, and holding on are all part of the same experience. It's a reminder that even when life wears us down or leaves us disoriented, there are always moments of connection, resilience, and wonder that ground us and allow us to keep moving forward. So, thank you for letting us in. It's a gift.
Thank you so much. That's very kind. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, so Sophie, I hope that you come to Spain because we really want you
Yes, me
here.
too.
Yes, especially in Barcelona, where I'm from. So, yes, yes, yes. Thank you very much for your time
Thank
and your
you.
patience.
No, of course. Thank you.